There's a certain kind of action modern gaming almost forgot how to even make these days. The kind of action that's fast, loud, dangerous from the very first second, not really even tutorials, no slow-and walking sections, whatnot, no cinematic interruptions every 2 minutes, just pure survival against impossible odds, while the explosions fill the screen and bullets fly from every direction at once. Technically speaking, this is exactly why the rumors surrounding a potential classic Contra remake feels like the most exciting thing right now. Here's the thing, Contra was never really built around realism, it was built around pressure. 2 soldiers, if you decided to, dropped into complete chaos with almost no chance of survival, fighting through alien invasions, military compounds, giant machines, and creatures that looked like nightmares pulled straight out of an old sci-fi movie. And somehow through all of that madness, the series created some of the most satisfying action gameplay ever made. A modern remake could finally bring that intensity back very properly. Not as just a slow tactical shooter, not as a safe nostalgia project, but a real full-speed action remake that understands why people even love Contra in the first place. And honestly, modern hardware could make that comeback look unbelievable. The game should never slow down because Contra works best when it feels like barely controlled. Every second matters, every dodge matters, every weapon pickup feels important because survival always hangs by a thread. And if this remake really happens, well, it could become exactly what action gaming needs today. Simple, relentless, pure adrenaline from beginning to end. Here's the thing, Contra was never really about slowing down, it was about survival under pressure. Pretty rare to come by these days. The original Hard Corps stood out even within the series. It had branching paths, multiple endings, and a cast that felt pretty wild back compared to more straightforward military tone of earlier entries. It pushed the idea that this wasn't just a single mission, it was a conflict unfolding in real time, shaped by the player's choices. That structure alone gives a remake something very powerful to just build on. Now imagine that concept with modern design. Not just a visual upgrade, but a full rethinking of how that chaos flows. Fast movement that feels responsive instead of rigid, shooting that hits harder, cleaner, more precise, enemies that don't just flood the screen, but force you to react in smarter ways. The kind of design that keeps the speed, but adds clarity. Because that's the challenge with a game like this. You can't slow it down too much or it stops feeling like Contra. But you can't keep it as unforgiving as it used to be or it risks pushing new players away. So the balance is to come from control, from giving players the tools to handle the chaos instead of just surviving it. And that's where a remake could really shine. See, the rumored direction points towards a hybrid approach right now, which is keeping that classic side-scrolling structure but expanding it with more dynamic camera work, more environmental interactions, and possibly even sections that break perspective without losing flow. Think of moments where the screen shifts and angles changing, the scale increasing, but you're still in control the entire time. That kind of evolution doesn't replace the original formula, it sort of builds on it. And of course, there's also the world itself. Hard Corps always had a slightly more futuristic, almost cyberpunk edge compared to earlier entries. And a remake could lean into that pretty hard. Cities that feel industrial and alive at the same time. War zones filled with moving machinery, collapsing structures, and environments that just react to what's happening instead of staying static. Because Contra has always been about spectacle, but spectacle with purpose. Every explosion, every wave, every boss fight was designed to push you just a little further than you were comfortable with. And speaking of boss fights, that's where things could get really interesting. See, the original game threw massive, screen-filling enemies at you constantly, and a remake is a chance to take that to another level. Multi-phase encounters like it used to, bosses that just change behavior in the middle of the fight, environments that shift as the battle goes on. The kind of fights that feel less like obstacles and more like events. Because that's what people remember, not just the difficulty, but the moments. In fact, one of those defining features of Hard Corps was its branching story. Different paths depending on your choices, leading to completely different outcomes. That system feels almost ahead of its time, and in a remake it could be expanded in some really meaningful ways. More decision points, more variation in how missions just play out, and endings that feel like a result of how you approach the entire campaign. That adds replay value in a way that fits naturally. Not forced, not artificial, but built into the core experience. And then there's also the tone, because Contra doesn't take itself too seriously, but it also doesn't feel like a joke. It lives in that space where things are intense, exaggerated, and just a little over the top. A remake has to preserve that identity. It can't go too on the ground, or it loses its personality. But it also cannot become pure parody. That balance is what makes it work. Let's talk about co-op, because that's a huge part of Contra's identity. Playing alone is one thing, but playing with someone else is where things, the chaos really comes alive. Coordinating movements, covering each other, dealing with the screen filling up faster than you can't even read it. A remake has to keep that front and center. Local co-op, online co-op, maybe even expanded modes that build on the core gameplay. Because that shared experience is part of what made the original so freaking memorable. Technically, the potential here is massive. Modern visuals can make every shot, every explosion, every movement feel more impactful. Sound design can push that intensity even further. Weapons don't just fire, they roar. Impacts don't just happen, they hit with weight. The kind of feedback that keeps players locked in from start to finish. But with all of that, there's still a risk. The risk of overcomplicating something that worked because it was direct. That's right. Contra was never about systems layered on top of systems. It was about action. Immediate, constant, relentless action. And of course, there's also the world itself. Hard Corps always had a slightly more futuristic, almost cyberpunk edge compared to earlier entries. And a remake could lean into that pretty hard. Cities that feel industrial and alive at the same time. War zones filled with moving machinery. Collapsing structures and environments that just react to what's happening instead of staying static. Because Contra has always been about spectacle, but spectacle with purpose. A remake has to respect that. It can add depth, but it cannot lose focus. Because the moment it becomes too heavy, too slow, too complicated, it just stops feeling like Contra. And that's the line developers would need to walk. Now, looking at the current state of the industry, there is actually space for something like this. A lot of modern shooters and action games lean toward open world, long campaigns, and layered progression systems. There aren't many games that focus purely on something tight, highly intensive, and skill-based at the same time. Which means a Hard Corps remake wouldn't just be nostalgic, it would be different. It would stand out, because sometimes going back to something more focused feels just new again. And that's really what this rumored remake represents. Not just a return to a specific game, but a return to a kind of design philosophy. One where every second matters, where every movement counts, where the game doesn't wait for you and you have to rise to meet it. If this remake happens and if it understands what made Contra Hard Corps special, then it won't just be another revival, it'll definitely come out as a reminder that fast, intense, no-nonsense action still has a place, and that sometimes the best way forward is full speed ahead.